Welcome back to Bio News Network. This is an update for April 21st, 2021, and we're actually taking a closer look at the weather across the country. As we had mentioned before, we had a dip in temperatures all across, pretty much within the core of the continental United States. And if you recall from our previous update, we were actually taking a closer look at temperatures that were dipping into the teens and the low 30s as continental cool air actually came down into the core of the continental United States, down into the Central Plains, down into North Texas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. And we're actually in the middle primarily of this cooling phase, but it's still pretty much dry all across the west as well as in the southeast. But for the next couple of days, we can see that it's going to be pretty low temperatures, additional snowfall in the area of Wyoming and also northern Colorado, Montana, as a low pressure system, as a low actually migrates its way into the Great Plains. So before we actually get into this weather update, if you're new to this channel, why not just go ahead and smash the like button and also go ahead and subscribe. We try to bring daily updates, especially when we have extremely severe weather, and possibly even sometimes updates twice a day, depending on the circumstance. Alright, so let's get into this. So as we mentioned, we actually see dipping temperatures across the country. Why don't we just go ahead and load our cuboid at this time. And if you recall from previous updates, our cuboid has to do with interdimensional viewpoint of the weather. We actually take a closer look at temperature, precipitation. We also take a look at dew point, and in this case we're going to be looking at special alerts from the Weather Center, as well as the fifth dimension of this cuboid will actually be taking a look at thunderstorm activity from the infrared imagery from the GOES 16 satellite imagery. Alright, so as we have our cuboid there, it reminds us of the 5 dimensions that we mentioned that we're actually taking a look at in this forecast going forward. So let's take a closer look at temperature. We see that, as we mentioned, the temperatures out west are pretty much pretty much above normal. In some above normal anomalies, especially in the far west, southwest. So we see Yuma, Arizona at 83, Dallas, Texas, which is actually in the core, and the tail end, the lower tip of this cooling trend, we see at 62, Mobile, Alabama 68, Los Angeles, California 63, and by the way, towards those weekend, residents of California, especially those in the Sierra Nevada mountains, will see additional precipitation at lower elevations, as well as at higher elevations, additional snow, as a low actually migrates its way into California, bringing with it well-needed rain and precipitation. So that's going to be something that Californians can actually look forward to going into the weekend. So we do see the temperatures are freezing, right at freezing as of 2 p.m. for Denver. In Billings, Montana, we see that the temperature is 51. Oklahoma City is 59, and Miami, Florida, of course, is in the mid 80s. So the temperatures outside of this cold zone, this cooling off from a release of air from the polar vortex that's actually coming down, continental cool air coming into the continental United States, is actually having quite an effect of cooling down quite a bit of the temperatures, as you can see throughout the continental United States. If we take a closer look at also the next level will be precipitation. We actually see a low. This is going to be a secondary low system that will be moving off into California. This high pressure system will actually make its way gradually down into the southern Great Plains later on this week, and with the advection of cool, warm, moist air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. We anticipate, and we can actually see on the precipitation forecast, will actually show you for torrential severe thunderstorm activity for the areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, also going into central Georgia, going into the next few days. We do see the low pressure system actually migrating its way into the northeast, and with that said, with this eventually making its way off into offshore, there's going to be a boundary layer of activity here that is going to increase gusty winds, as well as possibility of supercell formation thunderstorms in this area of the northeast. So there's quite a bit going on, even for the middle of April, and we still have the wintry blast making its presence known. You can actually see, based on the precipitation model, the actual bow of this cold weather taking a real deep dip into the continental United States, more so over the areas of Oklahoma and Kansas, Nebraska, also Arkansas, Missouri area. We've seen quite a bit of very, very below normal temperatures, some anomalies as low as 10 to 20 degrees below normal for this time of year. So as this high pressure system actually makes its way into the system, into the Great Plains, we're going to see thunderstorm activity going into the next few days. We do have for the areas of Springfield, Massachusetts, Bridgeport, New Haven, Connecticut, Hartford, Stamford, Connecticut. We do have high gusty winds and also possibility of severe thunderstorms in this region for today, as this low pressure system makes its way offshore. So if we also take a closer look at the dew points too, we do see that there's quite a bit of moisture. Dew points are in the mid 50s to lower 60s in the southeast, and as this high pressure system actually makes its way to the Great Plains, this is actually going to be prescription for severe thunderstorms over the weekend. We anticipate severe thunderstorms in the region of mid-Mississippi, mid-Alabama, mid-Georgia. Eventually these systems will actually make its way out offshore, as this high pressure system that we mentioned earlier will actually make its way into the southeast area and impact the weather here. So as we go forward into our forecast, these are just some of the advisories for the area. We're looking at Central Texas, we're looking at Louisiana, we're also looking at the Alabama area for slight to marginal risk of severe thunderstorms, and this is actually for a special alert for Friday. So we're actually taking a closer look at possibility of quite a bit of thunderstorm activity, primarily as this high pressure system that we mentioned will actually make its way into the southeast states, start interacting with the convective energy of the Gulf of Mexico. The warm, moist air will actually interact with this system, and that is going to be telltale signs of supercell formation as well as severe thunderstorm activity. If we actually take a closer look at the weather, this is our infrared model. We see quite a bit of thunderstorm activity right now off the coast of Florida. Eventually some of these cells will actually make their way across South Florida, so we anticipate severe thunderstorm activity for some regions of the South Florida to Central Florida area. There is an advisory for increased precipitation from Central Florida to North Florida at this time, so there is a possibility of severe thunderstorm activity for the southeast states, primarily in the area of Florida and the Panhandle. If we take a closer look also at the wind speed, there's currently a wind advisory for the area of the Northeast. And if we take a closer look and transition from today over to the next 24 to 48 hours, we can actually see the winds actually pick up, primarily from this high pressure system that's making its way down into the Great Plains, and as it makes its way into the area, also there's a low pressure system that's going to be impacting the lower Mississippi Valley area come Friday, with increased chance of thunderstorm activity in the lower Mississippi Valley. So that is going to be one impact that we're looking at. We're looking for heavy rains in the central Great Plains, and also we're looking at in the Tennessee Valley area, as well as heavy rains in going through Tuesday for the area of the lower Mississippi Valley area, northern Mississippi, as well as northern Alabama. So there's going to be quite a bit of activity, and in the future updates we're going to spend a lot more time taking a closer look at the formation of thunderstorms in this area, if there's going to be potential for additional hail, also if there's going to be possibility of tornado activity. We'll take a closer look at the soundings to see if there's going to be increased activity for possibility of tornado formation, which is very likely considering we have a high pressure system going into this area, we have a low pressure system transitioning offshore, and of course we have significant warming of the Gulf of Mexico going in. But this is actually the winds at this time, and as if we transition over to the next into the next 24 to 48 hours, we do see the winds picking up quite a bit. These are gusts, high gust winds, and we see that in the Northeast, the winds have actually picked up in the areas of Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. So there is going to be a wind advisory in this region, and as the weather changes over the next few days, we do anticipate that with the migration of the low as well as the high pressure system moving into the area, the winds will start to pick up depending on the boundary layers of the high pressure system impacting the lower pressure system, and there's usually quite a bit of gusty winds as well as turbulent weather along those boundary layers between as the high pressure system moves into the area. We can also take a closer look at the system as we described it earlier. We have a secondary low pressure system moving into California, so we're going to see some increased snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains, as well as some precipitation along the area of San Jose, California. Can anticipate increased shower activity over the weekend, and as this high pressure system migrates its way into the Great Plains, then we're going to see additional weather activity in the area of severe weather activity in the area of North Louisiana, central Mississippi, central Alabama, even North Georgia. And eventually that system will migrate just as this system is migrating offshore. It will eventually migrate off. So we're going to take a closer look in future updates. Please make sure to subscribe, because we're going to be taking a closer look at the system, and we actually see it migrating closer into the Great Plains area. Missouri, Kansas is going to be on alert as this system makes its way into the Great Plains area. So we're actually taking a very, very closer look at possible thunderstorm activity for midday Saturday. And as we mentioned, we see this low pressure system here, and we anticipate significant thunderstorm activity, and you can actually see the zones that we anticipate of severe thunderstorm activity in the area of Mississippi and Alabama for midday Saturday. So here we are on the latter part of Wednesday, going into the tail end of the week, and we do see the interactions of the system making its way into the Great Plains, and then creating creating the elements needed, or elements that will help to contribute to the development of severe thunderstorms, as well as supercell activity, possibly supercell activity with tornado and hail in this region going forward for Friday and Saturday. So that's actually going to be our forecast. We are seeing possibly in the next few days temperatures will be warming up in the core and the continental central of the United States as the various highs and lows interact. We do see on our North Atlantic oscillation, as well as our Arctic oscillation, that as we get closer to the end of the month, things are actually ticking up into the positive end of the NAO and the AO index. So that usually signifies that the cold air is actually that belt of cold air or jet of cold air that's been causing these below normal anomalies for temperature will actually start to sink a little bit further up, and the jet will actually allow that some of that cold air to retreat further up into the north section of the United States as well as Canada. So please make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to Bound News Network. We will continue to monitor the weather going forward for the remainder of this week. We're going to be taking a special closer look to what's actually happening in the Great Plains. We're actually keen to find out exactly if there will be any tornado activity with the formation of these thunderstorms and supercells closer to the end of Friday throughout the day Saturday. So that's something that we're definitely going to be monitoring, and as we get more information coming into the Weather Center, we will actually bring it to you. We appreciate all of our subscribers, and thank you for subscribing to Bound News Network.